Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 12th and final round.
Right hand, Golovkin steps in and down he goes again. Unbelievable. Mayweather makes him pay. What a rookie mistake. A sensational left hook by De La Hoya.
It's facts. I'm the best. You know what I mean? Sometimes I don't want to believe it myself, but it's the truth. I'm the best. I'm going to show you how great I am.
From Southern California, this is the Last Round Podcast.
Welcome back to episode 250 of The Last Round, a quarter of episodes, at least the standard episodes. We obviously have more than that, but the weekly review and preview shows, we are at 250, a quarter to what, 1,000? We are a little bit closer, obviously, if you combine all the bonus and all the other short episodes that we have in terms of content, but 250 episodes since 2018, and we are still going. We apologize that we've been a little bit absent the last month or so, but we're back. We're back here to give you the news, notes, analysis, and all that, reviews, previews, and we're going to touch on some of the fights and some of the news that happened within the last couple of weeks as well, just to kind of get you up to speed and get us back up to speed. So jumping right back into it, fight reviews Saturday, the 21st of October, so a couple of weeks ago, from the Kia Forum in Inglewood, California, on DAZN in Los Angeles, California. In what I saw, we were talking about maybe a man versus boy. It was a surprising beating. Giovani Santillan remains undefeated at 32-0 with a 6-round knockout over Alexis Rocha, who takes the second loss of his professional career. This was for the WBO, NABO, welterweight titles. Santillan, obviously, is with Top Rank. He started with Thompson's Boxing, and now with Top Rank. He's been on the show before. And then, obviously, close friend of the show, Alexis Rocha, Lex. He's been on the show multiple times. We had talked about, I think when they made this fight, we had talked about that we were fans of this fight, and there was a lot of people, the hardcore boxing community, who said that they liked this fight. I was a fan of this fight. I thought both of these fighters were at similar points in their careers, and they needed that fight. And like we've seen before, the welterweight division isn't exactly one of those divisions that shares their fighters crossing promotional lines, especially the last several years or so. So I think that this was an ideal matchup for both of them. Lex was ranked higher than Santillan. He was a WBO mandatory. But with Spence and Crawford tied up with all the belts, and them trying to make the rematch and seeing what has to be done, whether it's at 147 or 154. Rocha and Santillan, with Rocha being with Golden Boy and Santillan being with Top Rank, they didn't really have too many options, right? I mean, you have PBC guys, but it was highly unlikely we were going to see any cross-promotional fights with PBC and Golden Boy and Top Rank. So Top Rank and Golden Boy, De La Hoya and Bob Arum, seemingly get along enough where they made their own deal here. And I thought it was the appropriate fight. And I know some people criticized it. I know past guest of the show, Robert Diaz, former matchmaker for Golden Boy Promotions, criticized it. I disagree with him, and I thought that it was an appropriate fight for both of them. And Santillan came to fight, man. He really showed that he prepared for this fight and just took it to Lex, and just dominated him. What'd you think?
Going into the fight, I thought Rocha was gonna take it. I just thought he had more ways to win. I thought we'd seen him in some better fights, some good performances, because I thought Santillan's last few performances weren't that great. I remember he had a fight down in like San Diego where he went like several rounds with a kind of like an unknown type of guy, and it wasn't his best performance. But yeah, he turned up on the night and really took it to Lex. And I don't know whether it's because it looked like he maybe broke Lex's nose quite early on in the fight, and maybe that affected Lex, like his breathing and stuff like that. And I know some people were saying Lex didn't look too good on the scales. day before at the weigh-in, and he did look like a little bit soft, like maybe he'd, tried to rehydrate and stuff like that and it hadn't gone too well. He didn't look like his normal big type of self on the night, but taking nothing away from Santillan, breakout performance for me. And it sounds kind of odd, right, with how many fights he's had, but that's definitely the going in, headlining at the Kia Forum, coming in as the away guy, really, on a Golden Boy show. Unbelievable performance from him. And, let's hope going forward he can get himself some big fights. And Lex is good enough and young enough that he can rebuild and come back. And it's funny how, as fans, we criticize when fighters are in with, fighters where you kind of blow them away. Yet when we put two kind of like hungry guys still coming up the ladder that didn't have anywhere else to go, we criticize that as well. It was a good fight, unbelievable fight. I think everyone loved it. Kind of the underdog ended up winning, and we still criticized it. And I know some people like Roberto Diaz, like you said, he was saying he criticized it because there was nothing on the line. He thought there should have been some type of belt on the line. I get that. I can kind of understand that. But at the same time, like you said, is the division is held up. What are they going to do? They didn't really have elsewhere to go. If you look at the last few performances from both guys, they haven't really fought like that many big names of note because, Crawford and Errol Spence have had the 147 division really on hold for the last 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. So, they had to go somewhere, and, Giovani was successful on the night, and, be interested to see where he goes next.
Absolutely. And like I said, you shared the same opinion and that I had mentioned where are these fighters going to go at 147 pounds, and I picked Lex to win too, but these guys have been sparring partners in the past, and they both said it in the lead up to the fight and the interviews and all that. So I thought, okay, well, Santillan is already known. I mean, they're both Southern California guys, same weight division. They've sparred each other, so their familiarity with each other is a lot more in depth than they would know other fighters from, let's just say welterweights who live across the country here in the United States or something like that. So I agree with you. I thought Lex was going to pull it out, but I didn't think Santillan was not going to have moments. I thought, okay, well, I thought a big X factor, like I mentioned, was them knowing each other. They've sparred with each other. They've seen each other. They both fight out of the Southern California scene. So they're around all the gyms. Santillan was preparing for this fight by traveling a couple days a week from San Diego to Riverside, California to Robert Garcia's gym at the Robert Garcia Boxing Academy and getting some work done there. And then having Robert Garcia in his corner on fight night. And we had talked about how Rocha also has gone there for sparring. I don't know how often he was going there, but he would go to spar with the Garcia guys, and he would go there a couple times. I don't know how consistent it was, or if he was still doing it, or if it was just when Robert Garcia would need sparring at a welterweight division area, he would call Lex, since Lex is obviously in Southern California. But Santillan was going a couple times a week from San Diego to Riverside to train Robert Garcia and get the work up there. And I didn't know that until I saw Robert Garcia on fight night. Because I saw like video and clips of the press conference and all that, but I didn't see Robert Garcia. I just wasn't paying attention, but until fight night, and that's when I thought, oh wow, that means he's been getting some really good work. But I didn't expect Santillan to just come through and bulldoze Alexis Rocha like that. He literally just it made it seem like if you had Terrence Crawford fight, who's a lower card welterweight guy right now. I don't know. If you had Terrence Crawford fight like I don't even know, but even just think about mentioning Terrence Crawford. Just think about this: like, what if when Crawford made the Spence fight, he had showed up to the Golden Boy offices in LA on the fight week that Alexis Rocha was going to fight at the YouTube Theater in Inglewood, right there across the street from the Kia Forum. And then there was rumors that Crawford went to go talk to Golden Boy to see if he can make a fight with Rocha because he didn't know if the Spence fight was going to materialize. Just imagine, like, I would have picked Crawford on that fight as well. I think everybody would have. But, Rocha was trying to get a title shot. But, just imagine if he would have went in there with Crawford. I don't think he was ready for that step, but I think, like, as we mentioned multiple times, I know we keep repeating ourselves, Santillan was the appropriate opponent for Rocha, and Rocha was the appropriate opponent for Santillan. The only thing that was an obstacle was they were on different networks with different promoters, but they were able to make that deal, and Santillan came out on top. And we had talked about offline where Santillan, like, there was a moment where he threw like 4 left hooks in a row against Rocha, just literally just 1, 2, 3, 4, and you never really see that. You never really see that at the professional rankings, especially at high levels like that. But the fact that Alexis Rocha just took those shots, just back to back to back to back, means that he was not having it anymore. He did not, he was not in his moment anymore. And the referee, I believe, was Ray Corona, right? Ray Corona was the referee, and I think he appropriately and perfectly called it off because he's like, no, this is over. This is over. And congratulations to Santillan. Hopefully we can get him on to talk about his win and his future. I know he's been on before, so hopefully he comes on again. Lex is obviously always welcome here. He's been on multiple times, one of our most recurring guests. And I give a lot of praise to Alexis Rocha for coming out for the post-fight press conference after the fight. Because, that was obviously an emotional defeat. Nobody likes to lose, especially at this high level. But he still came out for the post-fight press conference and talked to the media. That's you got to give him a ton of credit for that, man, because I don't think anybody would have blamed him if he didn't come out. But he showed professionalism and a lot of courage and all that to come out for the post-fight press conference. So, yeah, man. Where do you think Santillan goes from here? Like, what do you think should be next for him? But what do you think realistically will be next? And then same question for Rocha. What do you think?
I mean, after that performance, you'd think that he's going to probably wait around if it doesn't take too long to see what's happening with Crawford and Spence, because how long ago was that fight? And we don't know, is Terence Crawford and Spence, are they activating the rematch? Are they moving up? We're still kind of like stood in the middle of nowhere right now, holding up that whole division again. If I was Santillan, okay, so say if Terence Crawford and Spence do a rematch, if I was Santillan, maybe fight someone like a Mario Barrios, a Cody Crowley, both guys are, highly ranked. If not, then the belts are going to get fragmented and he's going to be mandatory with somebody for the WBO. I think it's Cody Crowley is the next in line. So it would be Santillan against Cody Crowley. And I think he has a very, very, very good chance in that fight, which could see him end up being, a world champion. After all this time, we watched him coming up through Thompson's boxing, and I think the change to Robert Garcia has definitely brought out a lot more aggression in him, a lot more power. He seems to definitely have more of a stereotypical, I guess, Mexican style now, from going to that type of gym. He's very, and this isn't a negative part, but he doesn't do like anything brilliant, but he does the basics very, very, very well. And that's all that you need.
He's effective.
Yeah, he really is. He keeps his hands up. Everything that he does really well. He's very good at, throwing combinations. He knows how to cut off the ring. He just does everything, like all the basics, super, super well. And with that added little bit from Robert Garcia, that added aggression, kind of putting people on the back foot, I think that's taken him to another level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'd definitely be surprised if he doesn't continue with Robert Garcia and his team. It's like, think about it like this, like Teofimo Lopez, when he beat Lomachenko, he had a nutritionist, there was a lot of things that he added for that Lomachenko fight, that's why he got the win. He looked great. And he did what he had to do. And then when he lost to Kambosos, I remember, and this was the top ranked people on the broadcast saying it, that he didn't have the nutritionist. He pretty much didn't have the same team in place again that he had for the Lomachenko fight. You would think that, and I know it was expensive, and he was trying to make his money and he was moving his way up the ranks and stuff like that. And I understand that, but you would think that, okay, once you kind of get into that rhythm and you see, man, that was my best performance. In order to stay at that level and to go up from there, I would have to keep that same regimen going forward in the professional rankings like this. I'm a high-level fighter. So I hope Giovani Santillan figures it out and stays with Robert Garcia and stays around his team, because Robert Garcia has obviously showed that he's effective. He's an effective trainer. He's had some legendary fighters, and he's proven that his guys can win, man. So, and for Rocha, Rocha's, I think, trainer Hector Lopez, they've obviously been together for a long time right there out of Santa Ana, California, and Orange County, California. What do you think about that? Do you think that Rocha's, like, obviously Hector Lopez has gotten Rocha to this level, but do you think that maybe Rocha, like, look at Santillan, like he had his trainer, I think, from the San Diego area, but he realized, like, hey, I need somebody else who's more experienced, or somebody to join the team at least. And he went with, world-renowned Robert Garcia, who's been around some of the biggest fights in the world. Do you think Rocha maybe needs to do something like that?
I think at times it's good just to get like another look, right? Because fresh pair of eyes, maybe they can see something different. It's like if you write a report, I write a report, I don't see the mistakes, I give it to you, you read it and you're like, hey, you've made a mistake here, here, and here. And it's kind of like that, I guess, as coaching, right? See something different way of coaching as well. I think it could be good, maybe to have someone else on board, but, knowing the team, like Lex won't, I would be very, very surprised.
No, yeah, he's a loyal guy. And
yeah, I don't think
quality.
That he would. Yeah. But, just going into somewhere like Robert Garcia's like he does and getting all that sparring stuff, I think it could and should, help him come on. And, with this loss, I'm sure they'll go back and they'll look at things and maybe they'll see some things that, they didn't see before, some chinks in the armor as such, that they need to work on to get to that next level. So he's still super young. He's got a lot of time left in the sport. So, he's got a lot of time to go away, come back and rebuild.
Do you think we see this rematch by the end of next year? I feel Rocha's the type of guy he might have a fight or two in between, maybe in the first 6 months of next year. I feel like Rocha would be like, hey, now put me back in there. I don't know if Golden Boy would want to put him back in there with him, but I don't know. I just feel like Rocha should insist on telling Golden Boy, like, nah, man, put me back in there with him. Like, give me some comeback fights, one or two, and put me back in there with him. Like, assuming that Spencer Crawford still, for some reason or another, and I'd be surprised, still have the belts tied up. What do you think? Would he do that? Should he do that?
I think kind of like what Robert Diaz was saying. I think next time it needs to be for something. I think it was that good a fight that maybe, if Santillan goes on, picks up the WBO, Rocha works his way up to like mandatory, I think we'd see it.
Right.
I think it's that big a fight and it would be that good. I think the fight was that good the first time with like the knockdowns and legs just being covered in blood and not giving up and just showing like how much of a warrior he is, just keeps coming forward. I think people would want to see it. Especially in, the Southern California area, they're fairly big names in this area, right? So I think it would do good numbers. So, next time, make sure there's something on the line, like a world title of sorts or, some type of trinket.
Yeah. I think that's appropriate. Also on that card, John Scrappy Ramirez remains undefeated at 13-0 with the 4th round KO over Ronald Batista, who takes the 4th loss of his career. Scrappy Ramirez, he has a personality, man. Some people hate it, some people don't, but he at least has some type of bravado on camera and in his interviews. Obviously, we've seen this before, and sometimes it doesn't pan out. I mean, it's hard to pan out at the highest level like this, but, I think as a promoter for Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, you always need those guys who have those personalities, right? So, he's undefeated right now, and so far, so good. I think it's still early to tell like how he's gonna be in the future, in the long term. But if he pans out and he has the personality that he has on camera and the media, that just means a little bit better marketing and more dollar signs if he can keep winning, right?
No, 100%. He's what you want as a promoter, right? He comes out to music. They had those two guys singing like some sort of like remix version of like Michael Jackson's Beat It. You had the crowd going and lots of fans. Obviously sells a lot of tickets. And he does the performances, gets the knockout win. Right? What more do you want? He comes in singing, dancing, stuff like that, gets the crowd going, goes in there very smooth, very calm, very collected, picks his shots, gets a knockout, does all those viral things that you want. And I'm sure they're going to probably keep him picking the right sort of matchmaking to get him these knockouts, to build him up to, a world title shot because, he's selling those tickets. He's putting bums in seats. So, he's doing everything the right way so far.
Moving on to this past Saturday, the 28th of October from the Boulevard Hall in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, that's how you say it. Saudi Arabia on ESPN Plus pay-per-view in the United States and DAZN pay-per-view around the world, excluding the United States, the UK, and all that, I believe, Ireland. Tyson Fury. Some people might be upset that we're talking about this because I know there's criticism and all that, but it is the heavyweight champion of the world. And the day before, this was sanctioned by the British Boxing Board of Control as an actual fight to count on the record. So I thought that was, I don't know. I thought maybe there was some fishy stuff going on behind the scenes. But Tyson Fury gets the split decision win over the former UFC heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou in his first formal boxing match. Fury wins by scores of 95-94, 96-93, and then Ngannou, I think, got one score of 94-95 or 95-94, however you want to say it. Fury was down once by it looks like a shot to like the left side temple. It didn't look like that hard, but it did hit him in the temple area, which maybe kind of knocked his equilibrium. I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't watch this. I saw the clips and all that. I saw all the people who were there. They had Vince McMahon from the WWE there with The Undertaker. They had Cristiano Ronaldo, arguably the most famous athlete in the world. A bunch of legendary boxing fighters. Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao. Before we touch on this fight and whatever it means, how much money do you think Saudi Arabia spent on paying all those people to go to that event?
Oh, the event in total must have cost them, 100 million?
You think so?
Well, I think Fury's purse was 50 or 60 million. And then I think Ngannou supposedly got around a set fee of at least 10 million. And then putting on the event and paying all those people and all the private planes and stuff like that. I'm sure it must be close to 100 million just for that one event. All the singers, Eminem was there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was insane, man. Like, and as soon as I saw Vince McMahon there, him and The Undertaker, and then they actually gave an interview to, I think it was a USA Today or something like that, like on the little red carpet or whatever they had there. I was like, wow. I was like, there's no way that guy just showed up by himself like that. Like he look, man, whether people criticize that they paid or not, you can't tell me that some of these influencer cards that we've seen on across these platforms like the Zone and all that stuff, you can't tell me some of these influencer cards who were there, or influencers who are there, or people who are there in attendance sometimes aren't paid. It's the marketing, and it obviously helped. It obviously helped the promotion because people were talking about it. The wrestling community, the professional wrestling community, was talking about it because not only has Tyson Fury been involved with the WWE last couple of years or so, but you have Vince McMahon, who's one of the guy's most polarizing figures. You probably in business, not even in the wrestling circles, in business, who is at this event and actually gives some type of interview when you never hear from the guy like that. So they had the professional wrestling community talking, and then you had the football, soccer community talking, and in general the sports world talking, because you had Cristiano Ronaldo and you had some other athletes there. You had Eminem there, a bunch of legendary boxing fighters. Literally, there was like a picture of them. I don't even know how. It was Roberto Duran, De La Hoya, Manny Pacquiao, Mike Tyson, Eric Morales. All these guys were all there. Ricky Hatton. I mean, they call it sports washing, right? That the country's been trying to do, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I mean, who knows? Yeah, that's all stuff that it is what it is. People can complain about it or not, but obviously these sports are going over there. They're going over there to get the money because they see that these countries, Abu Dhabi, Saudi Arabia, they have an open checkbook right now, a blank check. They're like, hey, come over here. We'll pay you all this money to come over here. And boxing's been over there now. MMA's been over there now. Golf. Golf jumped in, and then the PGA Tour, which is the biggest golf company in the world, realized that, hey, these guys are going to really compete because they got a ton of money over there. So they combined with them. The PGA Tour, and they combined with, I think, Live Golf, which started over there, because they realized, like, we're not going to be able to beat these guys. So let's just merge with them. I mean, and then you got Ronaldo, who plays over there. Hey, what can you really say? What can you really say? I mean, what do you think? What's your take on this whole situation?
Well, like you said, it's just money attracts, right? So people are gonna go there, especially if you're a sportsman and you haven't made that life-changing money where you can turn down that type of those type of paydays. If you're Cristiano Ronaldo, you can turn down this, that type of money, but some of these boxers can't. Some of these are the big checks that these guys are going to be able to, use to help them and their family, later in life. So it's hard for them to turn down that sort of money when, I know obviously people are against it all. It seems to have died down a little bit because, like you said, everyone's going out there. WWE, Formula One, tennis, UFC, boxing. So, it seems to have disappeared a little bit onto the back burner. All the media kind of going against it with the sports washing and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't see it's not going to stop. The amount of money that they've got. Unfortunately, money makes the world go round, right?
What do you think about Ngannou and his performance? I guess and that this fight was actually sanctioned like 24 hours before by the British Boxing Board of Control as an official fight on their records, when it wasn't up until a day before.
It's kind of, I mean, after watching Las Vegas do it for Mayweather and McGregor, kind of wasn't too surprised. You could see that they're probably going to try to get somebody to do it. Pardon me. I thought Fury was going to pick around to do it. I thought it was going to be similar to Mayweather McGregor, where Mayweather just carried him because it was an exhibition, kind of waited for McGregor to get tired and then just jumped on him and knocked him out. I thought it was going to be pretty much exactly the same. I thought Fury would have toyed with him, kind of showed off to the crowd. Eventually Ngannou would have got tired, but just because of how big he is, just being that big and muscular and trying to hold your arms up and stuff like that, I thought he would have tired, and then Fury would have just, kind of taken him out there. The performance that he put on was unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. To be a pro, going in as a professional boxer for the very first time, to go in there against the best heavyweight in the world and to do what he did was absolutely outstanding. Looking at, Fury's body, looking at his figure, it looks like he didn't take training camp seriously. He probably did a few rounds here and there, but I'm sure it's not the same sort of training camp that he would have fighting Usyk. He came in at an all-time heavy, and I know it was only like a pound or so heavier than when he fought Wilder the second time. But if you look at the figure, if you look at his gut, it was weight in a different way. It wasn't like it was muscle. It was like it was just a beer belly. Instead, there's a complete difference. When you look at like the figure and the weight, it looked different. I thought this time around, and he obviously took him too lightly, thinking that like, okay, like this dude's a pro. I'm the best in the world. This is going to be easy, and it wasn't. And he probably could have lost on points. To be honest with you, I think I probably had Ngannou winning it by a round. It looks like
really.
Because of the knockdown. If you look at some of the rounds, I thought Ngannou probably won it by maybe a round. But I wouldn't say Fury by a round and Ngannou by a round. I think would probably be the right way, because they were so hard to score, because some of the rounds he hardly threw anything. And then sometimes you like Ngannou would maybe like land like one big punch, but then Fury would kind of dominate the round with his jab. And it's such a hard way to score, because boxing doesn't really have like a full set of rules. Like, this is how you score a fight. Okay, we have a guideline given out by the WBC, but they're a sanctioning body. That's not an official. That's just their guideline. That's not given out by like the ABC, or like there isn't like one governing body in the US or across the world to say like, hey, this is how you score boxing. So it was kind of hard to score because the limited amount of work that you had at times. There was like rounds where I think they'd land like 6 punches each, stuff like that. So it's like, how do you really score a round like that? But yeah, it was unbelievable performance from Ngannou, and he definitely guaranteed himself another payday. And off that performance, I think he'd maybe even beat AJ. AJ's not got as good a chin as Tyson Fury has. The Wilder fight would be interesting, because Wilder just has that one weapon to knock people out. But if you look at the chin that he's had in MMA, kickboxing, and his boxing performance against Fury several times landed pretty flush. And Ngannou fucking wasn't really phased at all. He has some hell of a chin on him.
Yeah. I was going to say that as well. And Mauricio Suleiman, the president of the WBC, has said that, did he say that he was going to enter the rankings into the top 10, or he's debating it? He said he was, right?
Yeah, he was. I could put it on the news and notes at the bottom.
Right. I brought it up here since we're already talking about it. He said that he will recommend Francis Ngannou will enter the rankings after his fight against Tyson Fury. Suleiman had said that he was impressed by how Ngannou, fought against Tyson Fury. I mean, what do you think about this? I don't know if he'll enter the top 10 or whatever. It's just maybe just the rankings in an official capacity. But do you think this is appropriate? I mean, if I was those top 10 heavyweights and stuff like that, like Wilder, you said, AJ, Ruiz, or whoever, Joe Parker, well, any of these guys, I think if I was them, I'd be like, yeah, put him in the rankings. Like, even coming off a loss, like they can make some money with this guy. And they would still be probably favored.
Look at it two different ways, I guess. The WBC are doing it because they know that he's going to make money. People are going to be even more interested now. You're going to get the boxing fans that thought he won, and you're also going to get the MMA fans that remember him from the UFC are going to tune in and stuff like that. Obviously, he's going to have a legion of fans over from Africa as well because of the things that he's doing. But then also, if you're a fighter in the WBC's top 10 or top 15, whatever they put him in, and then you lose your ranking, you get pushed out of the top 10 or the top 15 to somebody that's actually 0-1. You've got to think he didn't actually win, that he actually lost, right? If we're being, because that's what happened. If you look at BoxRec, he's 0-1.
Yeah.
And they've actually moved him up in the rankings. They're going to put him in the top 10 or top 15. So you've got to look at it like, have they done that to other people before? I very much doubt it. Normally you have to win to go up in the rankings. So, the WBC are doing it because they want their percentage, because they know that the fights that he's going to be in are going to be huge purses, and
right,
they want their cut. And if we're being completely honest, and Mauricio Sulaimán doesn't miss anything. Every time there's a boxing fight, there's some type of WBC trinket, because that fight wasn't for Tyson Fury's WBC belt, but he won a WBC Riyadh title or something like that. You know what I mean? Every time there's any type of event, Mauricio Sulaimán is there, handed out some type of belt. So that's the reason they're doing it. That's the only reason they're doing it, is because they want their percentage of his future fights.
And then Fury, the good thing about this is that a couple weeks ago, maybe the week before, a Fury Usyk fight was actually announced as official. That, hey, we signed contracts, we will be fighting. The planned date was for the end of December. Who knows if that's going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen. I always thought it was too soon. Because they could build up to this fight. I think it'll be the first quarter of next year. I'd be surprised if it is at the end of December. But, I gave a lot of credit to Fury because I don't think anybody expected that, right? Did you expect that when you saw that news? Because I thought, okay, he's going to go into to this Ngannou fight and do his thing. And then there's going to be maybe like 6 months of going back and forth in the media between Fury and Usyk and his team and both of their teams. And then maybe we'll see it next summer or the end of next year or something like that. I just thought, just based on Fury's personality and all that. But I think he satisfied a lot of not just obviously the hardcore boxing fan base, but the casual boxing fans, even just general sports fans, that it showed that sector of fanatics that, hey, look, I'm going to do this fight, which up until the day before was an exhibition, Saudi Arabia, get my check, get my purse, have this big event, get some publicity, and then, but I'm still going to fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world within a couple months, and it's already official. So, yeah, you guys, I'm doing this. You don't have to be so mad at me because I'm gonna have a real fight in like 2-3 months. I mean, I give him a ton of credit for that because I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that this so soon. Because you know how Fury is. He says he retires, and then he goes here, and then he says one thing, and then he says he masturbates 10 times a day during training camp and all that. I gave him a ton of credit for that. What did you think? Are they going to fight in December?
Going off the interviews after the event, no, because I saw Frank Warren said that, it was supposed to be December 23rd, but he now thinks that Tyson needs a rest. And then Tyson did an interview with Boxing King Media after the event, and he pretty much said like, hey, I'll see you in, January, February time. So yeah, after those two interviews, it looks like the December 23rd event is off. I was dumb enough to believe that it would go ahead because I thought this fight was going to be a glorified sparring session. So I thought Fury would have got out of here, full faculties, hardly any scratches. And then this was pretty much just like a little warm up to the Usyk event. And I think I'm probably in the same camp as a lot of people that thought that it was going to be super, super easy for Fury. So yeah, it shows how much I know, I guess.
Yeah. If we lived in a state that legalized sports gambling, I would have put some money on Ngannou too. Obviously he was a huge underdog, but I would have put some money on him too. Just be like, hey, if he wins, you win big. I mean, if you lose, then you lose $100 or something like that. I would have did it, man. I would have did it, but it is what it is. Also on that card, Fabio Wardley remains undefeated at 17-0 with the TKO in the 7th round over David Adelaide. who takes the first loss of his career. This is for the British and Commonwealth and WBO European Heavyweight Championship. These two have been kind of circling each other for a little bit, right? And now they finally fought, and Wardley came out on top, right?
Yeah, good fight. A lot of spite going into the fight after they had that altercation on what was it? There was like a red carpet. I can't remember if it was like the announcement for this fight where him, Wardley, and like Adelaide's kind of team got into an altercation and Wardley got cut. So there was talk of, this fight maybe not going ahead due to the cut healing and stuff like that. Luckily it did, because going into this card, I think this was the fight that everyone was looking forward to, because a lot of people thought, Fury and Ngannou was going to be very one-sided. So, good fight. I thought, Adelaide started well first couple of rounds. I probably thought he took those. Wardley kind of warmed up into it and managed to stop him. The last round was pretty entertaining to watch. If you go back, I know a lot of people thought maybe the referee stopped it a little bit too early because Adelaide was kind of throwing back, but he did look out on his feet, and then Adelaide did, kind of like push the referee and kind of punched him, kind of gave him like a little bit of a body shot. So I'm sure he'll be in trouble for that. But looking at Wardley, going from like a white collar boxer in the UK to now being British Commonwealth champion, unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Anything going forward from now, it really is just a bonus. To go from there to winning the British and Commonwealth, unbelievable achievement for the guy. And
does he have what it takes to get to the top, to win at the top?
No, he's too small, unfortunately. I think he's too small of a heavyweight to get up there. To be like a smaller heavyweight, like an Usyk, you just have to be like unbelievable. Usyk has the footwork and his combinations and his boxing IQ kind of makes up for his lack of size and power at times. And Wardley doesn't really fight like that. A lot of Wardley's fights, he's not necessarily doing that great. And then he kind of catches a shot, he kind of sees red, and then just comes in and kind of manages to win like that sort of way. And I think at the top level of a heavyweight, he's going to be too small. And I think that's just not going to work for him. I think he's too small, not strong enough and stuff like that to fight some of these, literal giants in the heavyweight division. But looking at what he's achieved so far is unbelievable. I'm sure if you turn around and told him at the start of his white collar fights, like, hey, you're going to be, several years from now, you're going to be British heavyweight champion, he would snatch your hand off.
Yeah, probably. Also on the card, Joseph Parker gets the third round KO over Simon Keane. This is for the IBF and WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight titles. And then Martin Bakole gets the 20th win of his career with the fourth round TKO over Carlos Takam, also in another heavyweight matchup. This whole card was heavyweight undercard and everything, huh? I mean, I got to give it to them. Like, hey, just make it all heavyweights. So
like Don King back in the day.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. Yeah, so I understand. And also this past weekend from the Polo Forum Benito Juarez in Cancun, Mexico on DAZN, O'Shaquie Foster gets the 12th round TKO over Rocky Hernandez. This is for the WBC super featherweight title. Round of the year. Very, very tense moments, dramatic moments. Talk to us about it, Mike. What'd you think?
Definitely the fight of the weekend. Obviously flew under the radar because of the huge event going out in Saudi, but this fight was unbelievable. Round 11, if you get a chance, go back. I'm sure DAZN are very, very good at sticking on replays of fights, highlights of fights. Go back and watch round 11. Watch round 11, watch round 12, just the last two rounds, and you get some really, really good action. O'Shaquie Foster comes in as obviously the champion, facing, the hard-hitting Rocky Hernandez. Rocky probably wins the majority of the rounds. I would say Shaki's probably down on the cards going into the 12, has to get the knockout, and he manages to do it. Great performance from him. I thought Rocky Hernandez looked really good. Just unfortunate, really, that it flew under the radar from everybody. And then also go on BoxRec and check out the scorecards. Some absolutely unbelievable scorecards from the judges, sorry. One of them has Rocky Hernandez winning every single round. Another one has it scored, I think, to Shaquie Foster. The other one has it like super close. So really just goes to show you, you know, what boxing is like with scorecards like that, you know, coming out of Mexico. But, you know, luckily we didn't need to go to them, which is the good thing, right? We got a knockout victory. So luckily we didn't have to go to the scorecards because, yeah, definitely those scorecards would have been a little bit crazy.
Yeah, you got to give it to O'Shaquie Foster. Like right at the last second, it's like, no, I got to figure it out. And he got the stoppage win. So, yeah, man, it's dramatic. You know, dramatic. A lot of drama unfolding throughout the fight. I got to check it out. I saw some photos and stuff, but I haven't actually seen the fight. So I'm gonna try to catch it back. Especially those last 2 rounds, 11 and 12. Seems like they were pretty exciting. Moving on to fight previews. This upcoming Saturday, the 4th of November, from the Tahoe Blue Event Center in Lake Tahoe, Nevada, on ESPN Plus. This is a new location. You know, Top Rank testing out new spots, huh? Raymond Muratalla, 18-0, goes up against Diego Torres Nunez, 18-0. All identical records, both undefeated. That's interesting. You know, you never know. What did Robert Diaz, we talked about earlier with Rocha and Santillan? You know, these unknown undefeated guys, sometimes that's pretty dangerous. So we will see on that. And also on that card, Efe Ajagba, 18-1, goes up against Joseph Goodall, 10-1-1. This is on ESPN Plus this upcoming Saturday from Lake Tahoe, Nevada. News and notes section of this week's episode of The Last Round. Keshawn Davis has received a 90-day suspension from the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation that was backdated to his October 14th fight in Rosenberg, Texas. That fight, originally scored as a majority decision for Davis, was now changed to a no decision. He'll be eligible to compete again on January 12th. I believe this was first reported by, he's been on the show before, BoxRec Gray, who works with the BoxRec site. I know it was reported elsewhere, but I believe we saw him with the information first, so credit to him. What do you think about this? The report was that it was for marijuana that was found in him. It is still illegal in Texas. Even in California, at least with the Athletic Commission, I think the Athletic Commission, because it did go up to like the California Supreme Court in terms of like employment, just because it is legal in California, there is still a gray area with like employers and employment. And I know there was a press release when it happened, when the California Supreme Court ruled on something, because the CSAC and Andy Foster released a press release saying, oh yeah, we saw the ruling, but it still kind of gave them, the California State Athletic Commission, some type of authority to discipline a fighter who has marijuana in their system or something like that. So just because it's legal in California doesn't mean that the Athletic Commission still doesn't have some type of authority to discipline you. So, that's something, if you're a fighter out there or a team, look into that. Just because it's legal somewhere, it doesn't mean that respective authority in the Athletic Commission still can't discipline you. There is some type of a decision there where they have some authority. And in Texas, it's completely illegal still. So, how do we look at this? Do we look at this as unprofessionalism, or, marijuana is obviously a hot topic in the United States, all around the world, but especially in the United States. There's people criticizing that, it doesn't affect performance and all that, but it's still illegal regardless. So is it on Davis for not being professional enough, or is it, what are we looking at here? What do you think?
I mean, to me, it depends. Why is he taking it? Is he taking it for a medical reason? Is it for like back pain? Is it for, something, like a mental, something like that he feels that he needs it, for like anxiety or something like that? Then just look into it. If you know that you're going to fight in California, if you're going to fight in Texas, New York, then obviously look at the rules. Davis is an Olympian. He fights for Top Rank. I'm sure he's probably got a team of people. Surely Top Rank can probably tell him, like, hey, you're going to be fighting in this area. These rules are different to your usual fights in like Nevada or California, stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was a little bit lazy on his team's side, for not looking into that. If they know that, Davis, smokes marijuana on a regular, or if takes gummies or whatever it is that he tested positive for, then yeah, you need to have a look at the rules, especially for someone like Davis and his potential. I think a lot of people probably see him as a future world champion, or at least he's going to be challenging for that, and he's going to be fighting all around America, is going to be potentially fighting all around the world. So he needs to look at these things, before doing it. If he's earning enough money, then get yourself a sidekick, get yourself a right-hand man that can look into these things for you. Or, Top Rank should maybe be informing him of these things. Because, yeah, like you said, unfortunately, not every commission is the same. And these are things that he needs to look at. And after this, I'm sure he will be looking at it, because he actually he was supposed to be fighting Pedraza, I think it was December 9th. And obviously that fight, I'm sure, is going to get, probably put back until January now, rearranged for sometime next year, due to this faux pas, shall we say, on his behalf.
Right. Yeah. So it is what it is, man. But, this is what happened. It got changed to no decision on his record. So, yeah, it is what it is, man.
It's a short career. If he's just taking, marijuana just for recreational, dude, you've got 10 years of solid performances, solid of your career. Once you get to 35, 40, whatever age you start to retire, smoke all you want. Smoke all you want. You've got 10 years to make generational, life-changing money for you and your family because he is that good. Just put that down, or, if it's just for that reason, if it's not a medical reason, then smoke away. Once you get to 35, 40, you can do what the hell you want with all that money. He's got the chance to make fuck you money, dude. You know what I mean? He can do whatever he wants because he's that good.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, if promoters don't want to deal with this, they're like, hey, it's not that they don't know that marijuana is illegal in the state of Texas or other states, then don't take the fights to Texas. Don't do it. Obviously it's a little bit more business friendly in terms of putting fights over there, and you get to take home a little bit more money for your fighters and you as a company and all that. So a lot of fights go to Texas, but if that's happening and you're worried about that because these fights are going to change or whatever, then don't put fights there. You might have to pay a premium to put them over here in California, but you won't have to really. You'll still have to worry about it, but obviously the California Commission, the state of California, is going to be a little bit more lax in evaluating something like that than in comparison to the state of Texas. But it is what it is. But like you said, these guys are professionals, man. They should know. And I don't know, maybe Top Rank did tell, they give them information on the states, like, hey, this is what this state does, this is what they require, this is illegal, blah, blah, blah. We can't say that they do or they don't because we don't know. But you would think they've been around for so long, they're pretty professional. They got a good thing going on over there with Top Rank, very organized company. But yeah, like you said, look at Canelo Alvarez. He's obviously a perfect example of discipline. He for every fighter, there's always showing him, training. When's the last time you really seen his training regimen that drastically different from one fight to the next? It doesn't matter who it is, whether it was Avni Yildirim, Billy Joe Saunders, Triple G, or Dimitri Bivol. His discipline factor and his level is always very high. He trains for everybody at a high level because he knows, and if you want to get to that level and you want to sustain that position, you got to do that. You got to do that as a professional. And it doesn't matter if it's boxing, MMA, baseball, football, whatever, basketball, it doesn't matter. Golf or whatever it is, you have to sustain that level. You're a professional. That's what it is,
Look at the Michael Jordan documentary. If you want to see someone who's that successful and still driven, look at that. That's a good example. Right.
Yeah. Even Kobe Bryant, there's, it's the same thing. Yeah, all these guys, LeBron James, all that, that's how they stay at that level. Because I think I read somewhere LeBron James spends like $1 million a year on like his body, like nutrition and training and all that stuff. Like that's an investment into, because that's what makes him his money, and he's like almost 40 years old and he's still better than like 95% of the whole league who's like 25 years old or something like that. So, that shows you, man. That shows you, but it is what it is. He'll be back. Like you said, he's a very talented guy and he'll be back and he'll, hopefully he learns from this and, every state that they fight in, hopefully they figure out the rules beforehand so there won't be any subsequent news like this. And then the UFC's Jorge Masvidal says he's going to be coming back soon in a boxing match sometime next year on who knows what it's going to be on, but I'm not surprised about this. All these guys are jumping into boxing because they're trying to get a cut. Maybe go to Saudi Arabia or Abu Dhabi. Like, these guys are spending money left and right. Maybe I can get a cut, especially with the comparison between MMA pay and boxing. So that's not surprising at all. And then one thing that's obviously been news for a couple of weeks now, I did do an interview with digital producer Jay Chandri, excuse me, about 2 weeks ago. When this news happened, Showtime has announced officially that they will be going out of the sports business, not just boxing, but the Showtime sports will be shutting down. People will be let go. That whole division will be shut down. Steven Espinoza will be out. Me and you haven't talked about this since it's happened, since it is significant news. HBO and Showtime were the two staples. What's your reaction to this, Mike? What do you think?
It's sad, obviously. Showtime was one of the better productions, really. Them and HBO were obviously the two biggest in terms of like name and history in boxing over here in the US. But I think the writing had been on the wall for some time, unfortunately, because it just seemed like, people that are in the boxing sphere, just some of the purses that like PBC were paying and putting on Showtime just didn't make sense, because you'd go to the events and there'd be like hardly anybody there. They'd be giving out hundreds and thousands of tickets. And you're just like, how are these guys like getting these purses for these fights when they're not even selling out? It was just, it's like PBC were just taking the money for Showtime. They're like, all right, we've got a guaranteed purse, so don't care about anything else. Don't care about the promotion. Don't care about selling tickets, because we've made our money. Showtime can do that. But that's not their job. Their job was really just to broadcast the show, where, PBC really should have been pushing the tickets and stuff like that, all of the commercial side of it. So, yeah, you could just see that type of relationship that they had just didn't work financially. And I'm sure, Showtime looked at that, when they were taking over. And I'm sure, unfortunately, the boxing side was probably leaking money, apart from the odd Davis and Garcia, pay-per-view, I'm sure made them, some healthy cash, and some other events, possibly the Canelo fights probably did, super well as.
But like touching on that, because I asked Jay Chandri on that in my interview with him, Espinoza was talking about Steven Espinoza, the executive vice president of Showtime Sports, was, talking about that in the lead up to whatever the last fight was. It might have been the Canelo fight. I think it was a Canelo fight, where he was saying, we've done $20 million gates the last 3 events or whatever it was, Canelo, Brian Garcia, Tank Davis, and all that. And he's saying like, Dana White and UFC have never touched 20 million and all that. But we've been told, and obviously we've seen reports, we've been told by people in the industry that, and I asked Jay Chandri the same thing, just because you're making that gate, like, are you getting all that money? You're paying your fighters a ton of money. A lot of money is going to, like, for example, Canelo's getting a big cut, and then the pay-per-view, people who buy directly on satellite and all that stuff, which I think is still very prevalent in terms of, buying digital still. I think satellite and all that on TV, cable, and all that stuff is still very prominent. Half of that goes to the distributors, So, what do you think about that? parading these $20 million gates and all that, but are you really seeing a majority of the percentage of that money?
That probably depend on the contract they have, right? Because the rumor was when Mayweather was at his biggest, he got a cut of that as well. You buy a hot dog, at the arena, and a percentage of that hot dog was also going in Mayweather's pocket. So
how powerful? Like, you got to give it to him, man. Regardless of, he's obviously an excellent fighter, legendary fighter, but in terms of business, that's how powerful he got. Where he's like, nope, I want a cut of everything that happens in this building on this day. Like, that is power. That is power. I mean, who knows if De La Hoya and those guys, Pacquiao, like maybe if they did that, I've never heard of it. They might have, especially De La Hoya. But the fact that Mayweather got a cut, that is ridiculously powerful.
Yeah, because you're looking at maybe what Canelo maybe has that power where he can say like, hey, I want a percentage of everything that comes through the door because these people aren't coming through the door if I'm not here. So that's going to be interesting. But no, like you said, I don't see like, $20 million gate. Like, they're not getting all of that. And then obviously like the pay-per-views and stuff like that. And then when you're paying some of the purses, like a Canelo purse and some of those guys, they're going to have to be making crazy amounts of money just to take home, say, like a profit of like a couple of million. It's a high risk if you're thinking about it, because it's not guaranteed, because the pay-per-views are so up and down, and with injuries and other sporting events in the US, like you have to pick a perfect weekend and stuff like that to put on a pay-per-view event. It's a risk. It really is a risk. So I'm sure that Showtime have looked at that and thought, we're risking all of this money that we could put into like documentaries, a cool TV series and stuff like that, which is probably guaranteed money over the risk. They probably thought it's not worthwhile. It's not worthwhile for them. So I can kind of like understand why they're pulling out. Sadly, because it's
right.
another one lost, and it looks like they're going to all be on apps. We're going to be on like ESPN Plus, DAZN, Amazon Prime is probably going to come in some sort of way eventually. Whether the PBC managed to get a deal with them, that's the future. Like people have been saying for many years, that is the future.
Yeah, the market is correcting itself. That's what happened. It's just like any industry, whether it's real estate, the car market, or anything like that. At least here in the United States, like there's always the bubble goes up and then it's eventually pops. Like, I mean, it sucks when it's happening, but like, eventually what goes up must come down. What goes down goes up, like sideways and all that. So yeah, it's the market's correcting itself. And Eddie Hearn said in an interview after the Showtime announcement that he's like, if we have fighters who start rejecting fights and all that, he's like, we're gonna release them. We're gonna part ways. And maybe that's good. And the market needs to correct itself to sustain some type of business viability for these for the sport, essentially. So because then we don't see the fights that we want to see because the financial demands are too high, and then the return on investment isn't going to pan out. And yeah, it's an interesting time right now. 2024 is definitely going to be an interesting time, and I'm very interested to see where Al Heyman is going to strike a deal, because obviously he's going to lead with, hey, I have Canelo fighting. Whoever he's pitching it to, whether it's Amazon, DAZN, or whoever, I don't think he's going to go DAZN. It'd be crazy if he does, but I don't think he's going to go to DAZN. He's going to use their offer to leverage some other one, but I'd be surprised if he goes to DAZN. But that's what he's leveraging with. Like, hey, I have a Canelo fight coming up in May. I have a Tank Davis fight coming up, and then what? I don't know. He probably has somebody else that he can. Spence Crawford. So he has 3 fights that's what he's using in his pitch. He's like, hey, look, these fights are all, this one made this, one made that. These are going to be popular fights. He's like, this is what you want. But
Pacquiao did that interview this weekend saying he's interested at Gervonta Davis at 147.
Yeah, that was pretty big. I give credit to Fight Hub and Marcos Villegas on that for getting that tidbit. So that was big. So hey, I could see it. It sucks for us, Espinoza and Showtime, because they're like, man, I wish he would have said that a long time ago. We would have tried to make that fight, because they would have. They would have tried to make it. But now Heyman is going to be like, oh, man, like, I need to capitalize on that. Because Davis needs, I mean, I'm sure they're having a difficult time right now in trying to find an opponent, because you're coming off a Ryan Garcia fight, which is the most popular fight for Tank Davis. And obviously they did well on the pay-per-view performance. But you can't go fight an Isaac Cruz or something like that, or a Rolly Romero after a Ryan Garcia. Like, you just can't. You know, you got to try to fight the high-level guys, and, you know, try to fight somebody who tried to bring something to the table, not only competitively, but from the business side as well. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see where Heyman goes, because there's not too many players out there, and boxing has showed these other broadcasters like what it is. So these other broadcasters are all familiar with seeing how it works from the financial side. So I don't think PBC and Al Heyman have a ton of leverage in terms of getting what they want from the finance side, but he does have leverage in terms of what he's pitching with the next Davis fight, the Canelo fight, Spence Crawford. So, because somebody's going to pick that up. Somebody will pick that up. It's just a question of who. You know, I mean, we'll see. It's going to be interesting to see in the next couple months or so. So I think we'll hear something, maybe December, January about that. That's what I would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while, hasn't it? So, and I can't see where else to go. If I was them, you got to look at Amazon Prime, really. And if Amazon even just offer you a deal, it's kind of worth taking it, right? Because it's huge. Yeah. I can't think of anywhere else you'd want to go. You know, I don't see them joining forces with Golden Boy and Matchroom at DAZN. Right.
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all. You know, I'm sure Heyman's talking to them, but I don't see that happening. But unless they just know nobody else likes the deal and he goes with DAZN. So, I mean, for boxing fans, that'd be great, because you have 3 of the major promoters under one roof, and DAZN's going to be like, hey, you guys have to work together. Like, that'd be great for boxing fans. That'd be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see. We will see. But once again, guys, we appreciate you guys listening to this week's episode of The Last Round. We went through some stuff through the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we caught you up, and you got caught up on the news and notes, previews and reviews and analysis of this sport of boxing. But before we go, once again, Mike, go ahead and let them know where they can find us and follow us.
We are at The Last Round 12 on Instagram and Twitter. Be sure to join us next week, where we'll be looking forward to Ernesto Mercado against Jeremiah Nakathia, and also Shakur Stevenson against Edwin De Los Santos, which is actually a Thursday night fight due to Formula One being in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah. F1 showing up in Las Vegas. I wonder how that's going to pan out. So once again, guys, for my co-host, Michael Shepard, I'm Danny Z. This is The Last Round.
Thanks for supporting and listening to the show. Follow us at The Last Round 12 on social media. Rate, review, and subscribe. This is The Last Round Podcast.